Donald Trump's approval ratings after just 3 months. Donald Trump is doing quite well. In fact, he's the most popular he's ever been. Here's US News describing exactly where he's at.
Let's just start with Trump himself, that 47% job approval rating. Two ways of looking at this. First of all, if you compare Trump to every recent president, this point after coming into office, Trump's number here is the lowest, significantly the lowest of any of his modern predecessors, except Donald Trump in his first term. He was at 40% at this point in 2017.
So Donald Trump is beating himself, which is quite an accomplishment. The interesting part about these polls, and there's a lot we'll go through in a moment, but 90% of Republicans approve of Donald Trump's performance. Only 4% of Democrats approve of Trump's performance. Now, you might say, well, that's obvious, but that's the largest gap in approval of a president between Republicans and Democrats in close to 100 years, Joe. It just goes to show how incredibly divided America still is, even though a lot of Americans do believe for the first time, well, more Americans than in the past 20 years now believe America's on the right track, but still an incredibly divided nation.
Yeah, it's incredibly divided. And also, I think that figure kind of comes on the back of America for the first time in the sort of mid-2010s, 2020s, actually suddenly starting to doubt itself and suddenly think, hang on, maybe we are a washed-up superpower. Maybe our best days are behind us. And remember, you know, we had the American century in the 20th century, but America has only been a global superpower for about 100 years. You look at places like, you know, China, it's been thousands in their sphere of influence.
Right.
In some ways, or, you know, tens. So I think that's the first thing to look at. The second thing is the guy's absolutely right. You can only compare Donald Trump with Donald Trump because everything else is apples with oranges, because he is so different to every other former president that the normal sort of rules don't apply. And the reason why more people will disapprove of him, even though he's just won this massive landslide election, including both houses of Congress, is because the people who approve of Donald Trump really, 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 really approve of him, and they will go and get out to vote for him, where you'd have a whole bunch of people, including registered voters, who would say, yeah, I don't approve on him, and then go and, you know, smoke another bong on the couch or whatever it is they do. But this guy electrifies people and gets out the vote. Interestingly, the only thing he's got a mega net approval rating on in terms of issues is border security and immigration, which just goes to show how stupid the Democrats were to open the floodgates again, especially when they didn't have to do anything. All they had to do was say, oh, well, Donald Trump's built the wall, shut the gate, we'll just keep it shut, and then, you know, bitch and moan about it a little bit. But basically, because that is what if Labor got that, well, again, they didn't exactly do that in 2007, but they learnt pretty quickly. You just let the Libs and the coalition, the right, do all the tough on popular stuff that you secretly want to do, and say, well, they did it and now we can't really undo it, and then talk about something else like health and education. When it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine, you have the equal biggest difference, exactly the same as inflation of the cost of living, 55 to 42, who actually think that Donald Trump is doing the wrong thing. So if you think about what he's doing on tariffs, which have set off a lot of alarm bells, that obviously feeds directly into inflation because it makes American imports expensive in America. And if you look at, of course, where the mainstream sits on Ukraine, clearly, overwhelmingly, it is pro-Ukraine and in opposition to Donald Trump's position. So there you go, America. Hope you're watching.
I would have thought a 47% approval rating after just 3 months, Liz, when effectively what he's doing now is trying to undo all of the garbage that the Biden administration thrust upon the United States. And if you've ever done a home renovation, it always looks worse before it gets better. So if Trump is going this well compared to his previous term after just 3 months, I reckon if you check back in a year, after he's made good progress undoing all the stuff he wants to undo before he can start implementing his full agenda, he's doing quite well.
Yeah, look, it's an early judgment call. I mean, these are very, very early days of this new Trump administration. But a lot of the headlines that we're seeing coming out of America singing the guy's praises, and I've always been pretty outspoken in my support of Trump. But as someone who I would consider a Trumper, I've been disappointed by quite a few things that the admin has done so far. Most noticeably, passing a continuing resolution last week, which meant that they were going to keep up the same spending levels as the Biden administration until September at least, at which point they could just pass another CR.